Samuel Little, born on June 7, 1940, stands out as one of America's most notorious serial killers. Over a staggering 35-year span, from 1970 to 2005, he confessed to the brutal murders of 93 women across the United States. The FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program has verified his involvement in at least 60 of these cases, which marks him as the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history, based on confirmed victims. His heinous acts went undetected for many years, largely due to the scattered locations of his crimes and the often marginalized backgrounds of his victims. Little's long evasion of law enforcement can be attributed to his nomadic lifestyle and the absence of forensic evidence directly linking him to the killings. It wasn't until his arrest in 2012 for drug-related charges that the tide turned. DNA evidence ultimately connected him to 3 cold case murders. Once in custody, Little began to confess, revealing the full extent of his horrific actions. He even crafted detailed sketches of 26 of his victims, aiming to assist authorities in identifying those who remained nameless. Samuel Little passed away on December 30, 2020, while serving life sentences in California, leaving behind a grim legacy that continues to be the subject of ongoing investigations by the FBI. Samuel Little, born Samuel McDowell on June 7, 1940, in Reynolds, Georgia, was abandoned by his teenage mother, Bessie Mae Little, who may have given birth to him while in jail. His father was identified as 19-year-old Paul McDowell. Little was raised mainly by his grandmother in Lorain, Ohio, and attended Hawthorne Junior High School, where he had disciplinary issues and developed troubling sexual fantasies from a young age, including strangling women. In 1956, after being convicted of breaking and entering in Omaha, Nebraska, Little was held in a juvenile offenders institution. He moved to Florida in the late 1960s, working as a cemetery worker and an ambulance attendant, and had numerous run-ins with the law, being arrested for crimes such as driving under the influence, fraud, shoplifting, solicitation, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and rape. During his time in prison, Little took up boxing and referred to himself as a former prizefighter. In 1961, Samuel Little was sentenced to 3 years in prison for breaking into a furniture store in Lorain, Ohio, but he was released by 1964. By 1975, he had accumulated 26 arrests across 11 states for various offenses, including theft, assault, attempted rape, fraud, and attacks on government officials. In 1982, Little was arrested in Pascagoula, Mississippi, regarding the disappearance of 22-year-old Melinda Rose Lapre. Although a grand jury opted not to indict him for her murder, he was later extradited to Florida to face charges for the murder of Patricia Ann Mount, whose body was found in September 1982. Despite witness testimonies placing him with Mount the night before her disappearance, he was acquitted due to skepticism surrounding the credibility of these witnesses. After relocating to California, Little was arrested in October 1984 for kidnapping and assaulting 22-year-old Lori Barros, who survived the attack. A month later, police discovered him in his car with an unconscious woman who had also been beaten. He served 2.5 years in prison for these crimes. Following his release in February 1987, he moved to Los Angeles, where he is believed to have committed at least 10 additional murders. On September 5, 2012, Little was apprehended at a homeless shelter in Louisville, Kentucky, for a narcotics charge. Subsequent DNA testing linked him to the murders of Linda Alford, Guadalupe Duarte Apodaca, and Audrey Nelson Everett, all of whom were discovered on the streets of Los Angeles. He was extradited to California in January 2013, where he faced further investigations for several dozen murders from the 1980s, including the reopened Lapre case. In total, Little was tested for involvement in 93 murders across multiple states. Samuel Little's trial for the murders of Linda Alford, Guadalupe Duarte Apodaca, and Audrey Nelson Everett took place in September 2014. The prosecution presented compelling DNA evidence along with testimonies from witnesses who had previously encountered Little during his criminal activities. On September 25, 2014, the jury found him guilty, resulting in a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Despite the substantial evidence against him, Little continued to assert his innocence on the day of the verdict. Before his death, he was incarcerated at California State Prison, Los Angeles County, where he maintained that he had been wrongfully convicted. On November 9, 2018, Samuel Little confessed to the murder of Melissa Thomas, which occurred in 1996. Shortly thereafter, he was charged with the 1994 murder of Denise Christie Brothers in Odessa, Texas, after admitting the crime to a Texas Ranger in May 2018. Little pleaded guilty to the murder of Brothers on December 13th and received an additional life sentence. The Ector County District Attorney and Wise County Sheriff's Office revealed that Little confessed to dozens of murders, potentially exceeding 90 across 14 states from 1970 to 2005. On November 15th, he admitted to the 1979 murder of Brenda Alexander in Alabama, along with credible confessions to several other murders, including those of Fredonia Smith and Dorothy Richards, both of whom were killed in Louisiana. By late November 2018, the FBI confirmed 34 of Little's confessions and began working to link the remaining confessions to known cases. His confessions, often made in exchange for transfers to different facilities, provided vital insights into cold cases, including one in Prince George's County, Maryland. In December 2018, he was indicted for the 1981 murder of Linda Sue Boards in Kentucky. And authorities identified one of his victims as Martha Cunningham, murdered in Tennessee in 1975. On May 31, 2019, Cuyahoga County prosecutors indicted Little for the murders of Mary Jo Payton and Rose Evans, both victims he strangled in Cleveland. Additionally, Little confessed to several murders across Ohio, including 2 women in Cincinnati, one of whom was identified as Anna Stewart. He also created portraits of many victims, which the FBI released to help identify them, resulting in at least one solved cold case. In November 2020, Little confessed to 2 murders in Florida, one of which had led to the wrongful conviction of another man. On April 22, 2022, a woman he killed in Memphis, identified as Zena Marie Jones, was confirmed as one of his victims. Samuel Little confessed to an astonishing total of 93 murders, with law enforcement confirming links to 60 of those cases. Most of his victims were particularly vulnerable, often consisting of prostitutes, drug addicts, or homeless individuals, predominantly women. Little targeted these individuals under the belief that they would leave behind fewer clues for investigators and would have fewer people searching for them. Despite the vast scope of his criminal activity, he was only charged and convicted for 8 murders, illustrating the significant challenges law enforcement faced in connecting him to all his confessions. His pattern of preying on marginalized individuals reflects a disturbing aspect of his criminal behavior, complicating authorities' efforts to apprehend him during his years of offending. Samuel Little had a significant relationship with Aurelia Dorsey, who tragically passed away in 1988 from a brain hemorrhage. Their tumultuous relationship was marked by criminal activities, including shoplifting. In 1971, Little was arrested in Cleveland with his then-girlfriend, Lucy Madero, for robbing a gas station. During the trial, Madero testified against him, but Dorsey, who was incarcerated at the time, provided crucial information to Little's defense team, contributing to his eventual acquittal. Little's life was plagued by legal troubles and incidents of violence, yet he maintained his connection with Dorsey until her death. He spent his final years in prison, passing away on December 30, 2020, in a Los Angeles County hospital. The exact cause of his death was not publicly reported, but he had a history of health issues, including diabetes and heart disease. Gillian Lauren played a pivotal role in the investigation of Samuel Little, dedicating over 40 hours to interviewing him during his time in prison. Initially, her goal was to write a mystery novel, but her discussions with LAPD Detective Mitzi Roberts shifted her focus to Little's disturbing confessions. Throughout their interviews, Little admitted to committing multiple murders and even shared sketches of his victims, shedding light on his heinous crimes. In December 2018, Lauren published an article in The Cut detailing her experiences with Little, which captured the interest of filmmaker Joe Berlinger. Recognizing the potential for a compelling narrative, Berlinger partnered with Lauren to produce the 5-part mini-series Confronting a Serial Killer, which debuted on April 18, 2021 on Starz. Furthermore, in 2023, Lauren released her book Behold the Monster, Confronting America's Most Prolific Serial Killer and Uncovering the Women Society Forgot, offering deeper insights into Little's life and the stories of his victims.